So I've started making expanded videos. That means I'm gonna need to play Item Lock. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch, and today, as I mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at an Item Lock deck, which you can use to get some wins really easily on the ladder. People do not like playing against this type of archetype at all. This particular list is a Boombox variant. It comes from YOLO in the Limitless Weekly number 26. Let's take a look at the list. Now, if you're a standard player, you'll probably notice quite a few of these cards are similar to a standard Boombox list. We've got Rillaboom with Voltage Beat, which is going to be able to find energy cards to power up a main attacker, which in this case is Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor. But the thing that this expanded variant has over the standard variant is that we've got a huge amount of disruption that we can use to annoy our opponent whilst our Eggrow takes our knockouts, and that comes from the ever-popular irritating Pollen Vileplume. That means that no players can play item cards from their hand as long as this Vileplume is in play. That's a really big deal. It means that lots of the really good search cards that expanded lists play cannot be used. No Quick Ball, no Ultra Ball, those kind of cards, trainers, they're items, they're out. And lots of expanded lists play thin counts of supporters and large amounts of VS Seeker, which again is an item. You can't play it under Item Lock with Vileplume. We also use a couple of tech attackers in this list, not necessarily for their own attacks, but instead because they can copy the Alolan Exeggutor and Rowlet. We have a copy of Memories of Dawn Mew, which can copy an attack of any Pokemon that's in play, which means that we've got the ability to use all of the Eggrow's attacks on a Psychic Pokemon, which means things like Single and Rapid Strike Urshifu are going to be in a bit of trouble against Mew, and things like Pikarom and Eternatus are not going to like having to go up against Marshadow-GX, which has the same type of ability. Shadow Hunt means that we can use the same copies of attacks as long as we have the right energy from Pokemon that are in the discard pile. So this is basic Pokemon in the discard pile. So fighting Pokemon to cover Lightning and Dark, we've got Psychic Pokemon to cover Psychic and also Fighting, and then we've got the Grass Pokemon covers Water, plus it's a good general all-round attacker as well. Combine that with the fact that your opponent can't use items thanks to Vileplume, and you've got yourself a very strong expanded deck list. In fact, when I was recording games, because I've recorded the games already, I actually played a lot of games and only found one that went longer than 5 minutes because people just don't like playing against this deck. So if you can afford to put it together, this could be a good way to grind up the ladder. Let's take a look at some of those games right now. Okay, we've got ourselves an Alolan Exeggutor in the active, which is fantastic. Our opponent is playing a Charizard VMAX deck. That's going to be interesting. We have an interesting hand, but we are going second. Going second with this deck is very important. It means that you can get Super Growth off on your first turn. It means that you can set that item lock up as quickly as possible. So in some situations, your opponent will only have one turn to use their items, which can be very big, and it means that matchups against fire type decks don't necessarily always go the way of the fire type, right? Sometimes they'll just get locked, they won't be able to do anything because we've got our item lock, and then we should be able to cruise on through from there. So hopefully that's the way it works out. At the moment we don't have any basics, which is disappointing. We've been given 3 cards to mulligan though, which means we do have a Quick Ball now. And also Marshadow-GX is going to be really useful in this matchup because we can copy the attacks of our Alolan Exeggutor once it gets knocked out. And I have to assume that it's going to get knocked out at some stage thanks to it being weak to fire. Now, it's our turn here. We've got very few things that we want to do. We want to get ourselves a basic down, whether that's a... actually, let's fiber this energy off. We could do that as well. Firstly, though, I will set up myself an Oddish. I like the idea of having that down. We've got 3 energy in hand, so we could go for the Grookey. I actually don't mind that. Let's do that. We'll grab ourselves the Grookey, we'll attach, and then we'll Father. This is going to slow our opponent down enough anyway. And then we can Super Growth into the Grookey to attack next turn. And then hopefully we can get ourselves an Oddish in play as well. The issue here is going to be that we could very easily see our Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor knocked out next turn if they have a Welder and a VMAX. then they can deal 200 damage with their first attack. They may miss out, though, on the VMAX's second attack. They're just going to pass. That seems really weak. We've top-decked into the Oddish, which is really good. Let's throw down the Marshadow. We've got pretty much everything we need here. Let's attach. Whether we attach to the bench, I think that's probably fine. Then we can use Voltage Beat. We'll put 2 energies into play. We will throw those down on the Marshadow as well. And then we will Super Growth before researching. We don't need to do that now. Let's get the Gloom in play. And then the Vileplume, whether we have it in the deck or not, we do. Item Lock setup. We should be in a really good spot now, especially with this Marshadow already powered. Our opponent hasn't really done anything here, so maybe this is not the best reflection of the deck. The Farber was very strong, though. Very happy with that. Our opponent does nothing at all, which is very good for us. We can pretty much just Rillaboom to the active, attach an energy to either the bench or the active, probably to the Marshadow, and then just research. And then we'll just Calming Hurricane and keep attacking. And if we attack every single turn, we should be okay here. Like, there's nothing stopping us from just going on to win this game. So what we'll do is we will attack with Calming Hurricane. I think we don't Tropical Hour here. We don't have the extra energy. It's not taking a knockout, so we don't need to do that. And then next turn, we'll just keep Calming Hurricaning until eventually we get there. I do have the extra energy, though, on the Marshadow on the bench, just in case we get an opportunity to Tropical Hour. I mean, we won't get an opportunity now. They've conceded. Again, a decent start. We're going second. Our opponent playing Mad Party now. Mad Party, a much more popular deck on the expanded ladder, obviously with lots of cards to get those Mad Partiers into the discard pile. It is incredibly strong, but let it be known that they do rely on items like this Battle Compressor to try and get themselves set up. So if we can get ourselves a Vileplume in play really early in this game, we should be alright to try and get a big victory. And since we've got the Tapu Lele in hand, we'll be able to search for Bridget. For those of you who don't know what Bridget is, it lets you search your deck for 3 Pokemon that aren't Pokemon EX and play them all onto the bench. That means that we can grab pretty much all of the things we want. We can set up the item lock, which would be fantastic, and then get to work with knocking some of these Pokemon out. Now, our opponent has Professor Juniper in their hand, and that is all. Our hand is not great, apart from the fact that it's got everything that we need in it. So it actually is it's pretty good. I don't know why I said that it's not great. It's got pretty much everything. So ignore me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's grab Bridget. We can throw that down here. Grab ourselves an Oddish. We can get a Grookey as well. And I'll grab the Marshadow-GX too, just in case. Just in case our Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor gets knocked out, we'll attach to that. And then we can Super Growth and evolve into a Vileplume, because I think that's going to be more important in this game than getting energy going early. Without their items, our opponent with Mad Party should struggle to get enough Mad Partiers in the discard pile. There's that Juniper. I actually drew into an N. That full art N, very nice. And if I'm going to do more expanded videos, maybe I should look into getting some of these cards in their nicer variants. It's not necessarily something that I've been looking into, but hey, if you are interested in seeing shiny cards, then leave a like, comment down below and let me know. We've got pretty much everything that we need here. We can attach an energy to... Let's put it on the Marshadow, actually. And then I can Marnie. I could Mallow and Lana this off. We've got 1 retreat, so we could do it. But to be honest, I like the idea... Oh, it's kind of tough. I like the idea of removing my opponent's hand a bit more. Make it a little bit harder for them. If they don't have any draw support from Pokemon or from supporters in their hand, then they will struggle. Let's Super Growth. We'll just get ourselves our attacker here. Thwackey goes into play with the Rillaboom in hand. There's also one in the deck, so we can set that up. And if they do manage to take a knockout this turn, we've got the Marshadow ready to attack. If they don't, then we can attack with the Eggrow in the active and be effectively ready to go. They've got the Poltergeist. Do they have a... They do have a Pokemon in hand, so they can trade that away. They're doing 140 now. 140 is just not enough, which is not ideal. Mad Party, there it goes. So they are taking their opportunities here, but we've got pretty much everything under control. They're actually going to concede. I was about to farber the energy off and attack, but they've just gone, nah, don't want to do this one anymore. And that kind of seems to be a common theme when I'm playing this deck. I've played a lot of games with this Eggrow list tonight. I've won a lot of games, but lots of them have been really, really short. Like, the second that things don't go our opponent's way, the second that we get that Vileplume up, our opponent goes, nah, not particularly interested in playing this one. And to be honest, I can understand that. It's a bit disappointing though, and from a content creation perspective, it's annoying when most of your games only last one turn. We've got ourselves, again, a really good start. Bridget will find Oddish, it'll find Marshadow and Eggrow. We can throw all of those guys down. We've got the Grookey in hand. We can place an energy onto the Crobat and then retreat into the Eggrow, and let's get our item lock set up here. I don't think the Kyogre in the active is going to be posing too much of a threat. We will Super Growth, we'll go into our Vileplume, and I hate to say it, but I feel like my opponent is likely to just concede again. And I mean, I've cut out a lot of games where this has happened. Maybe I'll leave this one in just because I've said something about it. We wait and see. We've got the Super Growth attack done. We've got a Marnie for next turn if we need it. We've got an energy as well. Obviously, our plan next turn is to evolve the Grookey into a Rillaboom. We'll see how that goes. Then we can start attacking with the Rowlet. And well, there they go. They've just conceded again. If you want your opponent to concede, play item lock. That's all I can say. You know what, I'm just going to record every single game that I play from here on out until I get one that goes longer than 5 minutes, because at the moment I am really struggling to get games that last any more than a couple of turns. Like, either I'm playing against a deck that just completely overruns me, I don't set up, or I'm playing against a deck that just goes, no, I'm not interested in playing. Now, this is a Eradicate deck, so they rely on Hypnotoxic Laser, so I feel like if I'm able to set myself up an Eggrow and a Vileplume, this is going to be another game where things just don't go our way. Well, I mean, they go our way. They go our way from anything but a content creator's perspective. We've got Guzma here. We can Quick Ball as well. We can get rid of that. I don't think we need it too much. Because we can go... Actually, we could have just used the Guzma to go straight into the stuff that we wanted. Let's just Crobat. Let's just Crobat here. I've started playing incredibly poorly. Let's use Computer Search. We'll get ourselves a card from the deck. Get rid of Brock's Grit and an energy. I can grab myself a Mallow and Lana. That'll get my Oddish out of the active. Let's just switch here. We can throw that into the discard pile. Now that they're both there, we can Cynthia Caitlin for either. Let's Super Growth into the Vileplume. We will see whether our opponent is interested in playing this game any further. So we'll go with the Irritating Pollen Vileplume. If our opponent gets annoyed because they can't play Hypnotoxic Laser, they will concede and the game will be over. And I will have to figure out whether or not this deck is good for a video. Because, I mean, it's good in one way. Like, it's good that you win games and you win games quickly, but it's not good in the sense that it's, like, kind of boring. Like, I'm finding this kind of boring. But that's just me. Let's see here. What's the best play? What's the best thing to do? Probably to Bridget. We'll grab the Grookey. I think we might get the second Oddish as well, just in case. You never know. And then we can Super Growth into the Rillaboom. That's probably the smartest thing to do. We can get that Lay of the Land Thwackey, and then our opponent concedes. Okay, well, I'll give it one more shot. I'll see if I can get one game. Okay, we are in our last game. No matter how long it takes, this is going to be our last game. We are up against one of the decks in the expanded format that does pop up and it does create problems. That is Honchcrow GX. Which is a big meta card. Let's Pokémon whilst we can. We'll grab ourselves, let's just see, let's grab a Grookey. We've got all of the guides that we need, which is fantastic. Now, let's attach to the active. We will Super Growth. And I'm thinking we're going to be fine here if we Super Growth into the Oddish this turn. So we'll get the Vileplume out now. The Honchcrow deck kind of relies on controlling your opponent's energy and attacks by removing the ability for people to attach special energy, which is huge. and removing lots of energy from people. So hopefully we can deal with this nicely. They have got their attack ready to go. Featherstorm deals 90, so it's going to be a couple of turns until we get knocked out here. They also have that unfair GX as well, so I think the smart thing is just going to be to Faber the double colorless and then super growth. We need to go into Grookey here. We've got the Thwackey, then we can get the Rillaboom. We're going to need to top deck in energy though. That Team Flare Grunt getting rid of the energy on the Rowlet and Alolan and Exeggutor is a bit of a problem. But we did remove their energy, so hopefully their lack of item-based search will do us wonders here. If we do manage to find an energy, we can start attacking and using Calming Hurricane to heal off a lot of damage. Unfortunately, didn't end up happening. Now we're going to need to just wait until next turn, right? Next turn we should theoretically be able to attack. And since they missed, it's not that bad of a thing either. We can just, let's play down the Oddish. We will super growth into the Gloom. Because the Gloom's actually got a really good ability that I haven't actually talked about yet. It's the Irresistible Aroma ability, which allows us to flip a coin, and if heads, we look at our opponent's hand, and we can place one basic Pokemon that we find there onto their bench. Now, I don't really care about the basic Pokemon per se. What I want to know, especially in this matchup, is how much energy is our opponent holding onto? Like, do they have enough energy to attack into us? Because if we get Calming Hurricane off enough times, we should be good to go. Now, our opponent's using Unfair GX. They have to look at our hand and then throw two of the cards in that hand back into the deck. I would think they'd probably get rid of Brock's Grit and Life Forest because Pokecom is gone. Looks like, sorry, it's not into the deck, it's into the discard pile. And they've actually given us Life Forest, so I don't know why they didn't get rid of that. They're obviously going, well, my opponent, they can't play stadiums anyway, but I'm going to knock out this Honchcrow at some point. Let's use this Irresistible Aroma, shall we? Flip the coin, have a look and see what their hand is. No, we don't get a chance to do that. That's disappointing. We will just Calming Hurricane. We heal the 30 damage, which is pretty solid. And now it's going to take our opponent 3 hits to knock me out. I'm going to take 2 hits to knock them out. And if they don't get another Honchcrow GX down, we can play down the Life Forest and heal, what, 2/3 of the amount of damage that they deal every turn? Which is pretty significant. Like, when you think about it, it is really, really strong. So, hopefully, that is the case. If they don't get another Honchcrow, we should be in the lead here when it comes to knockouts and healing. To be honest, we're probably in the lead with healing anyway, because we're going to be able to Calming Hurricane, just take knockouts. Let's use Voltage Beat, because we can get the Tropical Hour off at some point, potentially. I will also double check their hand. We get the heads, so we have a look. And they have a Kabu, so they will be able to shuffle their hand. I'll just leave that. They're only going to draw a few cards. Maybe they draw 8. I can't remember how Kabu works exactly. But that's okay. We've healed a bunch of damage. And now our opponent doesn't have a Honchcrow in play, which means that we might be able to use our Life Forest to heal even more, which would be fantastic. Now, Life Forest heals 60. Our attack heals 30. As soon as that stadium goes in play, we're healing every damage counter that our opponent places, which is really, really good. We find it almost impossible to lose from there, I think. We'll play that Life Forest down because they didn't manage to find what they needed. We heal off the 60, we're going to Voltage Beat an extra energy onto the active, and now I feel like we are in a good enough spot to win this game. We will Marnie. Then we'll see if we can get that Irresistible Aroma to work. If we can, that would be great. If we can't, then we can't. We'll flip the coin and we get the heads. Let's have a look. That is a completely and utterly useless hand. Fantastic stuff. Calming Hurricane takes the knockout. We could have actually Tropical Houred there to make it even harder for our opponent to do anything, but to be honest, we are healing all the damage that they're doing anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Our opponent has 1 Pokemon left with no way, as far as we know, to find another Pokemon. Oh, dare I say it, we've played a Pokemon game with this boombox list that lasted longer than 5 minutes. Victory, excellent, we will leave it at that. So I don't know if those games were necessarily successful, but I tell you what, we did knock off 2 Pokemon from the OG 150 challenge, which is fantastic. We're getting that much closer to the end of this one. Well, I mean, I say that, we've done maybe half, maybe just over half. I'd have to double check. There are still plenty of Pokemon to go though, so keep an eye on the channel. If you do enjoy it, please consider subscribing, like the video, all that good stuff. And if you are in the position to contribute monetarily, if you want to do that, then there are memberships available to you. Thank you very much to everyone on this page who has contributed, especially Dadbot, Azazel, Taco. You guys are absolute heroes. Fernando, Yolo, Stephen Ty, Agent Abel, Austin, Josiah, Andy, Exonix, Robsy, and Caster PD, as well as all of the Mega Sableyes that are listed over there. Thank you everyone for your assistance. Appreciate it. Thank you everyone for coming along today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.